Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Things We Know. It's our kickoff for the holiday season, and I'm Kari Morin.
And I'm Lisa Callahan. I am so excited about today's episode. I've been bouncing around all day, looking forward to recording this.
Me too.
So I honestly believe this was one of our very first topics we ever came up with, like possibly before we even knew we were going to do this for sure. Like when we were just kind of laughing about the idea of doing a pod, we came up with this idea. And
because we'd been talking about it for over a year.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Good point. Yeah. Good point. And so it is called Everything I Ever Learned, I Learned from Elf.
Yes.
Because what is that book? It's everything I ever needed to learn, everything I ever needed to know. I learned in kindergarten.
Yeah. I already learned in kindergarten. Yes. Which is very true. Similar. I mean, yeah. I think the North Pole through Elf's experience is very much like those sweet lessons of kindergarten.
Totally.
We just gave it all away. No, just kidding.
No, there's so much. I have so much to say.
Me too. I was just going to say, I'm kind of shocked in the past few years that I've met people who've never watched it.
What?
Yeah.
How is that possible?
Because there's a lot of holiday movies out there, and other people they haven't watched it. They might think they're not fans of Will Ferrell. I don't know, but I always encourage them.
Those are not our people. Those are not our people. Darren and I were talking about it because I was watching it the other day you and I talk about this. One of the reasons we want to do it. We quote this movie year round all the time. But honestly, I think we had the absolute fortune to see this in New York the first time. I went. I'm not 100% sure, but Darren and I both vaguely remember that, and it came out in November of 2012, I think. And I think we were in New York for something for Darren for writing. And we went to see this because we are huge Will Ferrell fans. I also love the movie that came out last year with him and Ryan Reynolds not Scrooge, whatever that one was called. I love that one that came out last year on Apple. You know what I'm talking about?
I totally do, but I'm
blanking on that.
That's great. It's a great musical, and they took the musical aspect of it very seriously.
Yes, it's so good.
Yeah.
But other than Elf, what are some of your favorite Christmas movies?
We had a lot of traditions growing up, and being the kids of like the TV Guide years, and there was no streaming. We had to really plan ahead starting in November, and we had limited TV.
I love planned ahead. I could picture you guys like dog earrings
circling. Like when's the one that both Brendan and I have in common that both of our families that we'd never miss was The Year Without a Santa Claus.
Of course, absolutely. Heat Meister
and Freeze Meister. I mean, yeah, so good.
Yeah.
So there's that one that is hilariously, and some of it really doesn't age well, but that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was always a big one. Frosty the Snowman. I have a funny. I remember babysitting my cousin Megan, and she had a really strict bedtime. My aunt was really strict. I love my aunt. She might listen to this, but anyway, really strict bedtime, and I had to put her to bed, and it was on TV. Right, there's no pausing.
Right.
We did have some videos back then, but this wasn't on video. This was like it was on. I had to put her to bed when. Sorry, spoiler alert. When Frosty's like a puddle.
Oh,
she was sobbing, and for some reason I might have been too young to drive when I was starting to babysit her, and I'd already put her little brother to bed, and my mom came up to get me, and she just was sobbing. She wouldn't go to sleep, and my mom was like, Margaret, let her watch the rest. let her see that he comes back,
that would be really traumatic.
There was this trauma of missing it. If you miss it, you wait till next year. And the same thing around Thanksgiving, or Christmas, but Thanksgiving, I think, was Sound of Music. If you missed it, you had to wait a whole year till they put it back on again. So yeah, it was definitely A Year Without a Santa Claus. Santa Claus is Coming to Town, Rudolph, Frosty. That was kind of like what we kind of, had growing up. So it was fun that Elf became this family, my family's tradition. And it's absolutely that in the Year Without a Santa Claus, which we have on DVD.
No question. Yeah. I have a
Those two are
Funko of Ice Meister.
we've watched a lot of different ones and we love a lot of them. I mean, we love watching Christmas Vacation, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And
that one I'm not a fan of.
Yeah, well, I think it's just we think it's funny. And then Bad Santa is really funny. So there's some other ones that we've really enjoyed along the way. Even Scrooged from the 80s.
I mean, Scrooge is hands down our favorite. We watch it every year.
The Bill Murray one.
Yeah.
So good. So like there's those, but really Elf is the one that like we all are like, oh, we're gonna watch that tonight.
Yeah, we do. We have a lot of these on DVD. So we have Frosty, we have Year Without Santa Claus is Coming to Town, all of those, Rudolph, we have them all on DVD or Blu-ray. And Elf is absolutely every year. Scrooge is almost every year. We tend to kind of like flip some things out every once in a while. We've gotten really big on White Christmas every year. And then we try to watch, we do watch because we love it. We love Holiday Inn, but there is a very problematic scene around February that we just now skip over because they do every year, calendar year. And when they go in to do February, they do Lincoln's birthday and they all dress in blackface. It's very pro African-American. It's very weird because the song itself is just like celebrating like Lincoln and freeing the slaves and all that, but they are in blackface and it is so cringy. It is just, so we just skip over February. Oh yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. I mean, but it's like, they didn't know any better because Holiday Inn came before White Christmas. It's in black and white, so it's just of the time, but oh my God, so painful.
Yeah,
so painful.
I will say too, like Die Hard and Love Actually have become some that my kids really love to watch with us. And then I forgot to mention The Grinch, but that's always been kind of fun.
Yeah, again, I can't do The Grinch. I don't know why. I have never been a Grinch fan.
What about like, I like A Christmas Story and It's a Wonderful Life. I can't say we watch them every year, but I do like those.
Yeah, I don't watch A Christmas Story, although that is my dad's favorite movie of all time.
I was expecting you would say.
Nope, not a fan of that one. I do have the leg lamp as an ornament because I bought it the year my dad passed, and it happened to be the ornament that Hallmark had out that year, which was crazy. So we don't watch A Christmas Story. We do watch It's a Wonderful Life. I had never watched It's a Wonderful Life until I started dating Darren, and it was his favorite movie, his favorite Christmas movie. And so, yes, so that's on regular. And that's the thing. It's like, we've got some that are always watched. The Year Without a Santa, Elf. I do think, again, the one that's escaping my mind of
Spirited.
Thank you, Spirited. I knew it started with an S, and I knew it wasn't Scrooge. I do think that'll be on regular rotation, but then these other ones are the ones that we just kind of, and White Christmas always, but then these other ones come in and out, because we spent so many years. Scrooge was literally, we'd come home from Christmas Eve Mass, have a little charcuterie and watch Scrooge, and then the kids could open one present from each other, and then they had to go to bed so Santa could come. So
I think that's when Die Hard and or Christmas Vacation started, when we do Christmas Eve with dear friends. And, we if we go to Mass, we come back and we do like these dice games and we get Thai food, and that's like, they go in the other room and watch that movie and they have a blast. So it's kind of a fun, little tradition. One other one I forgot to mention that Griffin really loves to watch every year is Home Alone.
Oh yeah, that's another classic. Yeah, Die Hard is funny because it's the joke that it's a Christmas movie because it is set on Christmas Eve. I was never a huge fan of Die Hard, but I do. We watch it now more often because we can see Nakatomi Plaza from our house because it's in Century City. So that was one of the most exciting things when we first moved to LA. I was like, oh my God, that's Nakatomi Plaza, which is actually Fox Movies. It's their corporate headquarters. So they just took that over to film it. So
do you drive by and go, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker?
God, 100%, 100% we do. I mean, we have literally driven by on Christmas Eve, just like,
That's so funny. Awesome.
But today is all about Elf. So I wanted to do this very similar to our 25th episode, which is we both brought some of our favorite pieces from the movie, but we don't know what each other picked. So
it could be the same.
It could be the same, but I went to look for literally the things that I now talk about on a regular basis with clients. That's the thing, is there's so much in here. And I came up with 6, which again, you and I may have some of the same, so maybe I won't get all the way there. But I do want to say also, just starting out, but I love this movie from the get-go because Bob Newhart was also one of my dad's favorite comedians. And he kind of reminds me of my dad in some way. And so him as Papa Elf, he had me from the word go, quite frankly.
Papa Elf.
So do you want to start, or why don't you start?
Well, you go. Well, okay, wait, I will just say this. I kind of thought of, my favorite lines, which we'll get to, but I was more thinking, I kind of was trying to boil down the lessons. Yeah. So I guess the first thing I would say is the reminders, take time to say something nice to somebody, right? Walks in, you did it. Congratulations. World's best cup of coffee. You look like a Christmas card, Francisco. That's fun to say, so just and it reminds me, I have an aunt like that who just engages with people. And I feel like you and I have talked about this maybe when we were together, but especially since pandemic, I feel like, screw it, I'm just going to be that weird lady that walks by people and go, I love your skirt, or oh yeah, beautiful eyes. So and I do it a lot, mainly because I'm channeling my aunt, and because maybe it's just who I am too, because we're related. But I feel like erring on the side of, being weird to someone is fine. If I feel it, I'm just going to express it. And
well, do you ever have somebody look at you weird? Like when I do that, people are always just taken aback. And it goes to the idea that we do not share that kind of connection with people. People are so underappreciated in their life. And so when somebody says, you look great, or you did a great job on that, or thank you so much for delivering our mail every week, or whatever, the person literally kind of goes, because they're not used to receiving.
No, you're right. I'm thinking maybe once somebody looked a little, but they probably were just embarrassed and surprised. But no, in general, even my kids, who I would think I could embarrass, they're always pretty touched that I do that. They're like, wow, that was nice of you. So yeah, I just call it as I see it. I was walking on the beach the other day and I was like, I love your swimsuit, and thanks. And I think people,
you made her day.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah. You made that person's day, no question. Yeah. So mine are kind of going to go in chronological order of the movie, I think, because I just watched it. The first thing that jumped out at me is the celebration the elves all have when Santa gets back from the first delivery of gifts. And, they're all celebrating and dancing. And then at some point, Santa's like, okay, on to the next one. But I just think about, for us as coaches, we always start our calls with our clients with a celebration. And I've had so many, first off, it's so hard for somebody to do that. But so often we accomplish something and we just move right on to the next thing. And they have a little celebration at the North Pole before they move into the next year of making Christmas gifts. And so that was the first thing that jumped out at me on this.
I love that.
Viewing.
That has been a particularly tough task this week with every coaching call I've had, which is, no, let's stop. You just came in hot with all the things you're not doing. And I actually need you to back up, because I'm actually hearing you got this, and this done. And you're forgetting the task of there's through the big loss you just went through last year, leaving your job, or in one case, losing her mom and getting a divorce, there's a lot of things to celebrate in here before we get to all the things you haven't done yet, and it is such a shift when we can go, oh, I'm not way behind. I'm actually way further along than I ever was. It makes everything so much better. So I love that you just brought that up. That's true.
Your turn.
Okay. Second thing I have is taking time to enjoy little things.
Okay.
Like the round door. The the like skipping the lines in the
Yeah.
and like waving at people who are actually hailing a cab, like, all the gum on the street, like all the little
I
things,
can't
like
watch
just
that gum scene
taking,
though.
I know
That
it's a
gum
little
scene
gross.
makes me so gross.
It's a little gross, especially because Santa warned him about it. But
Right?
every
It's not free gum.
like looking at everything, including lingerie, and just thinking, oh, special someone, that'll make someone feel good. Like taking time to do those little things, including like all the little ways he decorated the apartment, and use the etch a sketch to make a pretty like decoration. All that I just think is so childlike, and
Yeah.
something like we all outgrow. And we maybe the holidays feels like commercially we're supposed to recapture it for those 2 weeks, right? But really it's a great reminder just to live that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So for me, the next one was just the code of elves. Treat every day like Christmas. There's room for everyone on the nice list. And the best way to spread Christmas cheer is singing loud for all to hear. I'm singing. I'm in a store and I'm singing. I love it because you just said it, right? Like treat every day like Christmas. Why do we try to cram so much
Good cheer.
well, good cheer, but also like there's so much pressure. Oh, it's
Yeah.
Christmas. We're supposed to feel a certain way. Well, what if we tried to just feel that way most of the year? So the pressure wasn't like a pressure cooker from December
Right.
1st until December 31st to, be super happy. I love there's room for everyone on the nice list. And this kind of goes to another one of the quotes I loved, which was that some people lose sight of what's important in life doesn't mean they can't find their way again. And I just think that, God, especially
Who said that quote?
Papa Elf, I think, says
Oh,
that quote because they're talking about his dad being on the
yep,
naughty list, which
that's right.
he
That's right.
loses his mind over, and so maybe Santa says it. Maybe Santa says it, and so let me say it again. He says, "Some people lose sight of what's important in life. Doesn't mean they can't find their way again." And we live in a world where if it bleeds, it leads, and so we're constantly watching all the horrible things that go on in the world. And I think it's really important on a daily basis to keep your sanity, to be looking at the good and assuming that I don't think all, but most people can change,
Yeah.
given the right love, support. You said it earlier, everybody wants to feel seen. And I often think somebody not feeling seen and heard leads to the things that
Yeah.
are bad in the world.
Too much of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think like going back to your first thing, I was just saying that with if we don't stop and take time to really be more loving with ourselves, and we rush to all the things we're supposed to do, or we feel
Yeah.
less than on, then that's how we get to where we are in the world. We
Yeah.
didn't start with like being, because if you're not loving with yourself, it's gonna be really easy to not be loving with other people. So
Yeah. And we weren't born that way.
no.
It's
Yeah.
it's something we're socialized into, with our families, with society, with everything. That was a sad face.
I know, it's just like we're here for on a happy topic, but like that is sad. Just
Mhm.
we're recording this before the holidays, and there's a lot of sad things going on in
Yeah.
this country and in the world. And yeah, anyway,
Yep.
it's like, just does somebody need a hug?
Yes. Oh my God. The
Anyway,
whirly twirly drum drops.
okay, was it my turn?
It's your turn.
Okay, tell the people you love how you feel about them.
Mm.
um I know it happens when he like when his dad thinks he's bringing a singing telegram, and like and he's getting pulled out, I love you, dad, but it's when he's like sleeping in the guest room, it's like, dad, dad,
Oh my
dad,
God.
like, I love you, dad.
The tickle fight. Yeah, I mean, just the whole sense of wonderment of Buddy is, amazing. And again, very kindergarten like, because I'm sure your kids did that all the time, right? You get them tucked in bed and then, Mom.
I know.
Just,
And
oh my God.
I think also, I think he says some things to, is it's her name, Jolie?
Jovi.
Sorry, Jovi. Oh, okay, totally. He's like, I think, what did he say? Something about her face. He told her a lot of things that he was feeling about her. Like she sings like an angel, and
Yeah.
like you have such a pretty face. Just saying those things are just, again, it's like that nice way of telling people how you're feeling.
Yeah.
You don't do that
And I think he actually tells Amy Sedaris, you have such a pretty face, you should be on a Christmas card. And that, again, that was one of those moments where she was like, oh, because working in that office with, let's say, James Caan as her boss, like she's not getting any recognition whatsoever. And so for him to come in and just like even the simplest things compliment her, so good. I love it.
I like when he also says to Jovi, I'm pretty sure, like, it's nice to meet another human who shares my affinity for elf culture.
Elf culture. Yep. She's like, okay. So my next one is when he does when he can't make enough Etch-a-Sketches, when he's only made 86 and he calls himself a cotton-headed ninny muck. And all the other elves go, oh, and he goes, lots of people have the same talents, but not me. And that is so compare and despair, right? It's so cute because the elves are all trying to tell him he can change the light bulbs, he can change the batteries. But that moment of being in a room full of people, or social media is a classic, right? We all do the compare and despair. We think everybody else has everything going on, and we're the only ones that aren't living up to our potential. And the reality of it is, it's not true. We all do have, this sounds so, saccharine, but we all do have our own gifts, and my gifts are not your gifts, and vice versa. And there's a place for everyone in here. Compare and despair is just absolutely the thief of joy. I mean, that's not your quote. Your quote was earlier. I forget what yours was back in one of our first pods, but I think that is one as well.
Expectations kill joy.
Which I guess is compare and despair as well, right? You expect you're supposed to be somewhere or be at a certain level or whatever in life. And you think you see everybody around you doing all the things you're supposed to be doing. And it absolutely takes you away from being present.
Yes, totally. I did remember the one I was forgetting, which is, I think you're beautiful. I feel really warm. And when I'm around you, my tongue swells, or something like that.
Yeah, I actually wrote this down because I wanted to quote this. I feel warm when I'm around you and my tongue swells up, because that totally reminds me of the story from Griff.
I know. Yeah. That's why I always loved it. It's like, it's just so, there's less layers with certain people.
Yeah. Well, and again, how old was Griffin when he did that? Because it also reminds me of Liam's I'll be there at the perfect time.
Fifth grade.
Okay. And so Liam was probably about that same age. So that's that lovely place in childhood where they're starting to like understand things and also still have that childlike wonder. They don't have the filter.
They're not embarrassed about their feelings.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, my last one of these like lessons is just seeing the best in other people, always trying to see the best in other people. His dad, for most, like the character arc for the dad for most of the movie is pretty crappy.
Yeah.
And even like the strong men who are, removing him, the guards and stuff, but he just sees the best in people. And I love that. Everything that's happening, even though he's like, this is like Santa's workshop, except it smells like mushrooms and everyone looks like they want to hurt me, but like, that's like the one time he says something, maybe, like, but he's like still trying to see the best in people. Like, oh, is that syrup?
Oh my God. Yeah.
So I love that too. Like that reminder to just see the best in people.
Yeah. Look for the possibilities versus, I mean, there's a million ways Elf could have been, Buddy, I guess I should say, could have been demoralized from the minute he comes through the Lincoln Tunnel. And he just keeps seeing the best in the situations and the people, which is why this movie's so fun to watch, because it does remind you how to live a life that is joyful, versus everything else that's going on in the world. So I have two more. Because again, I was coming at this from some of the things I talk about all the time with clients. So when Deb, which again is Amy Sedaris, agrees to declaw the kittens. I think that's the thing about this movie, why it's so easy to rewatch, because you can catch something new every time. So, you know, he's walking through for the first time and you hear her on the phone and she's like, I've never declawed kittens before. How many do you have? 5. Okay, I'll be over tonight. And I'm like, Deb, don't say yes to something you don't want to say yes to. Stop saying yes to something when she should have said no.
Totally. That's a great example.
So funny. That's when he's first walking in and she is still dressed as elf and she thinks he's there as a Christmas gram. So
What's
funny.
a Christmas gram? I want one.
I want one. And then my final one, although I have still many things I want to say, but my final sort of lesson is Jovi singing at the end. So she takes the elf code of the best way to spread Christmas cheer is singing loud for all to hear. And she sings Santa Claus is coming to town, even though she's already told Buddy that she doesn't like to sing out loud. And to me, that was a classic case of focusing on the we and not the me. She knew that if she got everybody singing Santa Claus is coming to town, she could help Christmas cheer left, which means the sleigh would left. And I will say, when that sleigh lifts up over the crowd and the music swells, it goes out of Santa Claus is coming to town and goes into the elf theme, without fail, I start crying. There is just like the perfect swell.
I feel that too.
Right?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
so
and
good.
Also just like what's going on with he and his dad. But you're reminding me of a fifth one for me when you say that, because, and you're kind of already saying it because of the work we do, but like that the whole thing is in jeopardy because of lack of belief, lack of faith.
Yes.
Right.
Oh,
So
yeah.
really, really channeling whatever that means for people, Christmas spirit, or, you know, just belief in something wonderful, something magical, something kind of special, I think is a really, you know, is a really great, fun illustration of how you can get things going in a positive direction just by kind of changing your beliefs or focusing on what you want to happen. I think that's pretty neat. And you're right, it is kind of emotional. And there's so many good, funny little cameos there too that are super fun.
Yeah, so I was going to mention some of the funny cameos. So again, I think I have watched Elf. I mean, if it came out in 2012, that means I've been watching it for 10 years, and we watch it so much. And yet, for the first time, I realized I put the 2 and 2 together of Amy Sedaris being there when David Sedaris, like that's his most famous, her brother wrote Santaland Diaries about working at Macy's as a Santa in Santa's workshop. And so, I mean, she's amazing anyways. I love, love, love Amy Sedaris, but there had to have been some sort of like, like stunt casting aspect to that for sure.
Totally.
One of the guards, the taller guard at the Empire State Building that's giving Buddy hell is actually Will Ferrell's brother. So that always cracks me up. Is he the one that says,
like, go to Gimbals?
Yeah, yeah. He's the taller one. He doesn't, and you wouldn't know unless you knew, because I don't really think he looks like him. But yeah, go to Gimbals. So good. And then the other one that always cracks me up is the guy that plays Santa, who sits on a throne of lies and smells like beef and cheese, is Artie Lang, and he is one of Howard Stern's sidekicks. So again, amazing. Of all the people to have to play Santa.
Yes. And I love Peter Dinklage and
oh yeah.
Andy Richter and
then Kyle Gass. Oh my God. That was one of the other pieces I wanted. We laugh so hard every time when they are in the room with Peter Dinklage. He's the writer because they need a new idea for a kid's book. And they start out by sharing their ideas. And first Andy Richter says about a peach, and he's like, peaches are too vulnerable. Right. But then Kyle Gass, his idea is a book about children asparagus who are nervous about how their pee smells. But the best is watching Amy Sedaris' face, because she's like writing this all down, and he says, and they're self-conscious about how their pee smells. And she looks and like gives this face of like, are you fucking kidding me? But then she keeps writing it down.
I like their expression. So good. I've always focused on theirs where they're like,
oh, watch Amy Sedaris next time, because it is perfection. So good.
My favorite line from that scene is always Peter Dinklage going, like, just like got so many things I'm just psyched out of my mind about.
Psyched out
like,
of my mind about.
Like, I say that a lot around here when I've got like,
Oh my God, that's amazing. So I have a couple of questions I wanted to ask you. First was, well, again, because this was at first was going to be one of my things I was pointing out, but didn't really work the same way in what I was thinking. But when Papa Elf is trying to explain to Buddy that the reason there is the engine now is that there's less people believe in Santa. So do you remember finding out there was no Santa? And do you remember your kids finding out?
totally remember about my kids.
Okay.
And has some funny stories about friends, which we probably don't have time to share, but could be a whole episode of some of the funny stories about my friends' kids finding out about things like that in the tooth fairy. But I don't remember, but I was the youngest, so I'm guessing it was spoiled for me pretty young.
Okay.
But I definitely remember being excited about Santa, but I also was pretty young, and there was this big painted puppet theater, said Julie and Kari's Puppet Theater, and I came in and I looked at my parents, like hand on my hip, and then I got a hip out, and I was like, who made us that big old puppet theater? And I could just tell it was my mom's handwriting. So that could have been the beginning of where, or I might have been.
Do you know how old you were?
Probably 5, 6,
okay,
maybe,
well,
but like
pretty
pretty little.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I don't know. I don't remember it crushing me either. But I don't remember, but with Peter, he used to write, my oldest, obviously, he used to write letters to Santa, to the Tooth Fairy, like all that. He so badly wanted to know more. He was so curious. And he asked, I mean, poor Brendan, I give him so much crap about this. He asked, I have so many questions. How old are you? Like what, how old were you when you started this? Did someone do this before you? Like he had all these questions, and he was like 7, maybe 8.
Okay.
And Santa wrote him back, in the middle of the night after building a pretty elaborate train, something, or maybe a bike. I'm not sure. I can't remember what it was. And my husband wrote,
no. Oh no.
Older than Jesus, younger than time. Like he thought he'd answer in a riddle, and I was like, you idiot. If we're Catholic, like Christmas is the beginning of Christmas, like Christ being born. You dummy. You know what I mean? And he may not catch that, but this is clearly your handwriting. You know what I mean? Right. And like and he was like, well, I don't, and like that was it. Like Peter was like that, and he picked up on those two things. Then he laid on the couch like he didn't feel well. Then he brought it up to someone at school who was more than happy to spoil it for him. And it was pretty devastating to him. And the way that I responded to that was like, that's like, there's a way you can choose to, be part of that Christmas spirit and still really enjoy that aspect of it and the spirit. Cause he used to be like, I can't believe anyone thinks their parents would buy them all that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But I will say what led into him being curious about it was he didn't, there's the what's the book going to the pole with like Tom Hanks is in it. It's
I don't watch that one either.
Christmas Train or something. It's a beautiful, heartbreaking story because there's a kid in there. I think it's played by Haley Joel Osment. Like Christmas never works out for me. So that, and the fact that like we always, since my kids were little, have done, quite a bit of service around the holiday. So he was very, very aware at a soup kitchen, watching those movies, like delivering stuff, that there were people who he didn't understand, why would Santa bring more to the kids who have more? Because, he went to school with kids who were like, I got this and this and this and this, and some kids that were like, I got one thing. So he just didn't get that. So that was already a problem for him. So then it sort of made sense, but he was really bummed. And I made the offer, you can help us make Christmas magical for your brothers. And that began a tradition that he will not let us let go of to this day. And his brothers don't even try and get in on it, which is after your brothers go to sleep, you come back down, we set it all up, and then we'll stay up and like have hot cocoa and play cribbage.
Oh, that's fun.
That is his tradition. He lives for it. And then the other two finding out was a bit of a bummer for them. They were a little older, and Miles was sort of figuring it out. So we thought Griffin should know. And he was really pissed that we told him. He was like, what did you just let me keep? Anyway, but for Peter, it was a lot of conversations and then
That makes total sense to me for Peter. I mean, that is so, that sounds like that tracks 100% to Peter for sure. Yeah. I mean, he's such a curious person. So it's funny because I didn't realize this happened. I had this conversation with my hairdresser back in Chicago because we were both the oldest and neither one of us could remember finding out that Santa wasn't real. And I never really knew when Liam found out. Like he never came and asked those same questions. Now we do the same thing. The kids always wrote letters to Santa. No offense, Brenda, but I was a little smarter. I answered them in cursive because they were not used to reading. They weren't used to seeing my handwriting cursive. So I would write it to the best of my ability in perfect cursive. And I will say they still do it to this day. I will throw up if I can find it. Liam trying to read my writing last year. He could not read cursive to save his life, let alone my writing is worse as I've gotten older, but it is hilarious to watch him try to read this. So Liam, I don't remember Liam finding out or myself, but when I was in the 6th grade, I had the flu. And what we used to do in my household, Santa came on Christmas Eve for us. He did not come on Christmas morning. And so my dad would take my sister and I out to look at Christmas lights while we were, and then my mom was setting up Santa. And then we'd walk in and, oh, bye, Santa, bye. Like, oh, we just missed him. So I was sixth grade and I had the flu and I had to stay home. And we told my sister, well, Lisa's going to stay upstairs. She won't see Santa. And my sister was like, man, I don't, So unfortunately, she was like in the 2nd grade. Charlotte found out there was no Easter bunny because she walked in on me putting the Easter baskets together and then put 2 and 2 together. There was also no Santa. And I will tell you, she was devastated. And Darren will tell you to this day that it is traumatizing to him because she walked out. He couldn't stop her in time from opening the door. And she lost it. And she still's pissed. She's kind of like my grip. She's like still pissed that she
found out. One of those core memories.
Yeah, totally.
That's funny because I was all too happy to have the gig on the Easter bunny up. Like that to me was like too ridiculous. Like when I became a parent, I was like, how long are we gonna keep this sham going? Peter was like, he got a basketball hoop to hang up, and he was like, did the bunny drive a truck? Like he had to picture it all. And I was like, I'm not a smoker, but I totally pictured myself being like, can we tell him? Can we tell him? I didn't want to keep all that, I'll do the Santa thing if I have to.
Well, I remember when the kids were little, because I guess at this point, I don't know when Liam found out. I think he probably found out from friends at school, but Charlotte was probably
darn friends.
I know, in like 3rd grade-ish, I would say, maybe even a little bit older. And so I remember thinking when they were little, oh, I'm going to be devastated when they find out. And I wasn't. It was like, okay, it's a rite of passage and we're going to move to the next level. They still write this. I mean, Liam is 21 and he still writes I make him, but he still writes the letter to Santa, so does Charlotte. And then we still set out cookies. And the Darren and I eat really fast, leaving crumbs and bite into our carrot for the reindeer.
Do all that?
Oh yeah, we still do all that. Still do it. So I think that's the thing. The things that we really enjoyed about all of that, we still do. But it's so nice to have them sleep in on Christmas Day and all the things that comes with. Which is why my parents were smart and had us do Christmas on Christmas Eve because then they could sleep in. We'd get up and get to play with our presents, and they could sleep in. But we were the only ones we knew where Santa came. It was like he came to our house first for some reason.
Aw.
The other thing I wanted to point out before I have one other question I wanted to ask you is I wanted to point out, again, these are things that jumped out at me the other day. Like Buddy on the Bridge is obviously It's a Wonderful Life. I saw that from the get-go. But the one scene that always is interesting to me is the horses in Central Park always reminded me of Terry Gilliam's The Fisher King. And so I was looking that up the other day, and the Fisher King is its own myth, but it's not the same as the movie. The movie is about kindness and love and friendship in a world that seems like it has no place for them. And I thought that is also Elf, in some ways, this idea of people, the outsider and trying to love everyone. I mean, Fisher King is again one of my favorite movies. So that I wanted to end, well, this is not the song, but we had a little conversation about this, so I wanted to end talking about
Did we
Baby.
share our favorite quotes yet?
Oh, those were all my things I was going to say.
Oh, okay.
But if you have favorite quotes, you share favorite quotes, and then we can talk about.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, obviously we already did do the who needs a hug. I love when he's leaving the North Pole and he's like, goodbye, everybody goodbye. And he's like, goodbye, Mr. Narwhal. Goodbye, buddy. Hope you find your dad. We say that all the time.
Yep.
The other one is, obviously when painting the picture of the dad kind of being full of himself and on the naughty list.
Yep.
He, obviously gets, I hope I'm not ruining this for anyone who hasn't seen it. But
I guess we should have spoiler alerted.
He's really trying to figure out if this is his kid. And so he's like, can I take dinner? And he's very obviously not present for his child that he currently lives with, right? There's just not
that he knows he has.
Yeah. And the mom, Mary Steenburgen, I love her. She serves dinner and he's like, I'm going to take this in the office. I got a lot of work. I got a bunch of stuff. And then the kid tries to get away with that. He's like, can I eat in my room? I got a bunch of stuff. And we say that around here. Like just last night, Miles was like, I have to study. And like, got a bunch of stuff. You want to eat in your room? He's like, yes, you don't mind. I love that. And then obviously we already teased this in a previous episode, but it's like, why are you smiling? I love smiling. Smiling is my favorite. Make work your favorite. We see that around here a lot. Like
Faison Glover. I mean, that is a star turn. That guy is so funny. Papa's got a brand new bag. He's like, Santa's got a brand new bag. They're gunning for my job.
It's too good.
Yeah, they're gunning for my job. I don't know who's gunning for my job. On the walkie, Santa's got a brand new bag. so good.
Yeah, making me want to just watch it again right now.
Oh my God, I had so much fun watching it this weekend. Yes, those are all amazing, and you're right. We quote it all the time, year round. It has nothing to do with, which is why this is a great movie, because while it is a Christmas movie, hands down, no question, it is a universal 24/7, 365 theme type movie that you can just grab onto and anchor yourself into, whether it's July 4th or December 25th or April 2nd, So I wanted to finish because we kind of did this just ourselves yesterday. We were talking about this song as we were picking the song. Oh, there's Mabel.
That's actually Ozzy.
Oh, was it Ozzy? Okay. Is Baby It's Cold Outside, because a couple of years ago, this became a very controversial song around and made it sound like the woman was being coerced into staying the night. And I've always loved this song. And so I really listened to it and I just 100% disagree. And it feels to me like one of those things that society grabbed onto at the time. But I listen to that song and I hear a woman who wants to stay, was worried about what her family's going to think. And so she's coming up with all these reasons, but ultimately she wants to stay there. Cause she even says, I can't remember the line exactly now, but it's like, I'm going to tell them I tried, like she tried to leave. And so what's upsetting to me about this song is that it goes against No Means No, right? Because she really does want to stay.
Well, it's okay. It's okay to call it cringy if like I don't think it's canceling it to say it's cringy for some people, because we are doing a better job now, more and more, not enough, as we know.
Yeah.
Of having clarity around it, about not just empowering women, but also helping men be better about understanding boundaries and all that stuff. So it does, where it was very charming and not intended that way at all. And the extreme critics will go back and be like, that's a horrible, misogynistic song. It's like, there's a lot of things that don't age well. And if you look at it with that lens, it's going to be cringy. But if you can see it as, like we were talking about a scene from Devil Wears Prada, if you can see these scenes as like, what's happening is actually mutual, and what is being said is the fear that is always placed on women around what people will think of her, never what people will think of him. So that's a whole other thing. But you're right. I mean, it's a charming, and And it's the song because this is the one that Jovi's singing and he starts singing with her and it's so darling. And I
That's so
love their
cute.
version of it. I
Yeah.
love like their version we can put on our list because it's on Spotify as theirs, even though obviously the original's adorable. But yeah, I think it's too bad. There's too many things right now that are just getting thrown out completely and
Yeah.
without like the nuanced conversation around what was the intention here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and therein lies, I think, the problem with cancel culture. But again, a whole nother pod that we won't get into. So anything you want to say before I read our lyrics of our song?
No, I think I said lots.
I think it was perfect. Okay, so we picked Pennies from Heaven, which is actually the song that he is playing all when he first hits New York, when he's doing the jumping on the lines and he's eating the candy or the gum that is not free candy because he did not listen to Santa. But as I was reading I love Louis Prima, love him, love this song. But then as I was reading the lyrics, I was like, this is literally kind of what the pod is all about. So it's a perfect song for the holidays for us. So again, Pennies from Heaven from Louis Prima. Every time it rains pennies from heaven. Shooby dooby. Sorry, I had to do it. Don't you know each cloud contains pennies from heaven? You'll find your fortune falling all over town. Be sure that your umbrella is upside down, meaning so it can catch it.
Yes.
And trade them for a package of sunshine and ravioli. If you want the things you love, you must have pizzioli. And when you hear thunder, don't run under a tree. It'll be pennies from heaven for you and me.
I love it.
I know, it's such a good song. I love it. So this is not the end of, we still have three more episodes to round out the year, but we wanted to kick off December with, I mean, literally it's been our I don't know how we succeeded in life before 2012, before this movie came out.
It just reminded us all the things we learned in kindergarten.
Yes. Yeah. Brings us back. So if you enjoyed this episode, I would invite you to go on to Apple and give us not only a rating, but an actual review. We'd love reading those. It's so fun to hear how you guys are taking all of this. And on Spotify, you can give us 5 stars. And that would be a really lovely holiday present for Kari and I.
Thank you. And ours is to just keep listening and keep bringing you content that you love and that hopefully brightens your day or, brings a little sunshine, little pennies.
Little pennies from heaven. Well, as always, thanks everyone. Enjoy this holiday season and we'll be back next week with more The Things We Know. Thanks everyone.
Bye.